Various species of mythical headless men were rumored, in antiquity and later, to inhabit remote parts of the world. They are variously known as akphaloi, Greek kappa phi alpha lambda omicron iota, headless ones, or blemmies, Latin, blemmi, Greek, beta lambda mu mu upsilon epsilon, and described as lacking a head, with their facial features on their chest. These were at first described as inhabitants of ancient Libya or the Nile system, Ethiopia. Later traditions confined their habitat to a particular island in the Brizone River or shifted it to India. Blemmies are said to occur in two types, with eyes on the chest or with the eyes on the shoulders. Various etymologies had been proposed for the origins of the name blemmies, and the question is considered unsettled. 1. In antiquity, the actual tribe known as the blemmies were said to be named eponymously after King Blemmies, beta lambda mu upsilon, according to Nonnis's 5th century epic Dionysius Shaka, but no lore about headlessness is attached to the people in this work. 2-3 Samuel Bochet of the 17th century derived the word blemmies from the Hebrew blai, without and moch, brain, implying that the blemmies were people without brains, although not necessarily without heads. 4-5 A Greek derivation from blemma, Greek, beta lambda mu mu alpha, look, glance, and mu, Greek, mu omega, close the eyes has also been suggested. 6 Wolfgang Helck claimed a Coptic word blind for its etymology. Leo Reinishta in 1895 proposed that it derived from Balamai desert people in the Badawi tongue, Baja language. Although this theory had long been neglected, this etymology has come into acceptance, alongside the identification of the Baja people as true descendants of the blemmies of Ur. The first indirect reference to the blemmies occurs in Herodotus' Histories, where he calls them the akphaloi, Greek, kappa phi alpha lambda omicron iota without a head. The headless akphaloi, the dog-headed cynocephali, and the wild men and women, besides many other creatures not fabulous, dwelled in the eastern edge of ancient Libya, according to Herodotus's Libyan sources. Mela was the first to name the Blemia of Africa as being headless with their face buried in their chest. 14 In a similar vein, Pliny the Elder in the Natural History reports the Blemyi tribe of North Africa as having no heads, their mouths and eyes being seated in their breasts. Pliny situates the Blemyi somewhere in Ethiopia, or in the neighboring lands to Nubia. B. 15, 16, 17 Modern commentators on Pliny have suggested the notion of headlessness among blemmies may be due to their combat tactic of keeping their heads pressed close to the chest, while half squatting with one knee to the ground. C. 518 Solinus adds they are believed to be born with their head part dismembered, their mouth and eyes deposited on the breast. The term acephalus, akphaloi, was applied to people without heads whose facial parts such as eyes and mouth have relocated to other parts of the body, and the blemmies as described by Pliny or Solinus conform with this appellation. Headless men also appear in the several Asian legends. Breast-eyed races, War-am, are recurrent in the Zoroastrian scriptures as the Bundaishn, the Jamis-Pnamig and the Drokti Asurig. Furthermore, the blemmies are called breast-eyed, sternophthalmi, in Strabo's geography. 21 Men without heads, and others whose eyes and mouth were on their chest are mentioned by Al-Qazwini inhabiting the island of Java. In the Indian epic Ramayana, the demon Kabandha is a headless creature with one eye in the middle of his stomach and with extra long arms. He is cursed to remain in this form until released by Rama. In the Chinese classic text Classic of Mountains and Seas, the god Xing Tian is described as having no head, and with his nipples as eyes and his belly button as a mouth. This is because he got decapitated in a battle against Huangdi. The yokai Dinatsura in the Japanese folklore is depicted as a headless man with his face on his torso. He letter material was incorporated into the Alexander legend by Leo Archipresbyter, known as Historia d'Aprilius, version J2, which was translated into Old French as Roman d'Alexander en prose. In the prose Alexander the golden-colored headless encountered by Alexander measured just 6 feet tall, and had beards reaching their knees. 38:19 In the French version, Alexander captures 30 of the headless to show the rest of the world, an element lacking in the Latin original. Other Alexander books that contain the Headless People episode are Thomas de Kent's romance and Jean Walkland's chronicle. Likenesses of Blemmyes are used as supports for mice records at Norwich Cathedral and Ripon Cathedral, from earlier local folklore. 65 Writer Lewis Carroll is said to have invented characters based on objects in the Ripon church where his father served as canon, and in particular, the Blemmyes here inspired his Humpty Dumpty character. 66 The four giants who protect the fantasy land of Termina in The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask are similar to the Headless Men, in the matter that their head and torso occupy the same anatomical position. Umberto Eco's novel Bottolino, written in 2000, features headless men as minor characters. A headless man was also featured as a monster of the week in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. In it is known as the Headless Horror. Shakespeare's play Othello makes reference to the cannibals that each other eat, the anthropophagi, and men whose heads do grow beneath their shoulders. 67 In his later play The Tempest, Gonzalo admittedly believed when he was young that there were such men whose heads stood in their breasts.